Welcome back to my channel, everyone. Three Tips here. And what I'm doing here is I've got some gold in this solution that I'm trying to filter out. It's got a little bit of silver chloride in it. This is just some waste pieces that I dissolved in aqua regia. I'm going to try to filter this out through a filter paper right now. Got that all filtered out nicely. And what we'll do is add it to this beaker. This beaker's got a few crumbs of pure gold in it from my previous refining. That's not a problem. You see the little brown specks down at the bottom there? That's just pure gold. This is just more or less a recovery here anyway. So I'm going to add our gold solution to this beaker. Now this solution is just a little bit of remnants of pieces of gold that were left on the edge of the beaker when I poured it out, and just a few odds and ends that I gathered up and dissolved in aqua regia. Here's some sodium metabisulfite, our favorite chemical. And what we're going to do now is precipitate the gold out of this solution with some sodium metabisulfite. 1 spoon should do it. There's not much gold in here at all. This is real time. You'll see it kind of clears up from yellow to clear. This is how gold precipitates out of a solution that's not highly concentrated with gold. If we wait a minute, we'll see it'll start to turn brown. There it goes. Remember, this is real time. This is not slow motion or time lapse. Give it a stir here. Kind of amazing how it goes clear like that before it turns brown and the gold starts coming out of solution. Now this is typical for a solution that is not very concentrated with gold. It'll take a while to settle also. Might take overnight. I don't know. I've allowed this to settle overnight. If you look at it, there is a respectable amount of gold in there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this waste and see if we can get the gold into a melt dish and melt up a nice button of pure gold. Got some gold down in the bottom of my waste container here. We'll maybe take a look at making a video of that. See down here. That's just small amounts of gold that get poured off with the waste. They accumulate in the bottom of my temporary waste container. And we'll see about getting that out of there for a different video. And as you can see, there's just a small amount of gold in there. Let's move this out of the way. And if you look over here, you'll be able to see my temporary container. This is a 10-liter glass jar that I use as a temporary waste container. When my stock pot gets full, I pour my waste solutions in this temporary container and store them in here until there's room in my stock pot. When I do those rinses, some of the gold powder gets poured over with the rinses and it accumulates in here. And once I get some room in my stock pot, I'll drain all this solution off, and then we're going to get down in here and recover the gold out of the bottom of this temporary waste container. Let's transfer the little bit of gold that we got here out of this beaker down into this melt dish. I'll pour some of this water back into the beaker. Now let's take this over, and we're going to put it down here on our melt table. We'll get some, add some flame and melt this up. Here's our little BB of pure gold. Looks pretty ugly because it's crusted with borax from the melt dish. Put it in a beaker, add a little bit of distilled water. Now we're going to add a little bit of sulfuric acid, and we'll stick it up on the heat, and this sulfuric acid will dissolve off all of the flux of our little gold bead. Here we go. Here it is, our little gold BB. We're going to put this on the scale. Got 0.3 grams of pure gold, and that's rather anticlimactic. And so while I was out looking around in my shop, I happened to look up on the shelf, and I seen this box, and I'd forgotten all about this. I've had this thing for probably 5 or 6 years. It's a box full of stuff that my jeweler friend gave me. What I found was some more of this silver wire. I don't know, I forgot I had this stuff, man. But the refining gods are smiling on me. I get to do a do-over with this. And what we'll do is we'll clean this material up right here, and we'll refine the pure silver out of this. Only this time I will not use sulfuric acid. I'm just going to use nitric acid to dissolve all of this silver wire, and then we'll make a big bar of silver out of it for my friend the jeweler. Nice. Alright, like I said, I forgot I had this stuff. There's some more scrap in here. I don't know what this is. It looks like silver plated stuff. This is some well, that's gold-plated pins there. That'll have to be processed through the sulfuric acid stripping cell. There's some other assorted fittings and connectors here. I think it's all silver plated, but we're not going to mess around with any of this stuff. Here's some, looks like contacts. Silver contacts, maybe. A bag of those. But I'd forgotten he had given me all this stuff. So what we're going to do, I'm going to put this off to the side. We're going to concentrate on doing the silver wire here. Alright, as far as this little BB of gold here, weighs 0.3 grams. It's going to be pure gold. And we'll just go ahead and list that on my eBay store. I filed into the wire, and you can see it's copper, but there's a thick coating of silver over the copper. I'm going to put a little bit of silver test solution on there, and you can see it turns instantly a blood red, which is a positive indication that we have silver on there. It's got quite a thick coating of copper, as you can see. I think this is going to yield us some decent amount of silver, and it'll be worth the effort to go after this stuff. This piece here, I filed into it, and you can see it's just got a light coating of silver right there. So I'm not going to waste a whole bunch of nitric acid on this, but the wire, I believe that the wire will produce a decent yield for us. I cleaned off all the silver wire in my ultrasonic, and then I steamed it off. That's not necessary. You don't have to do that. I just do it to help keep things nice and clean. Now we're going to get a weight on the wire here so that we can calculate what our yield is going to be. Alright, looks like we got 524 grams of silver coated copper wire. I'm going to write that right on the side of the beaker. 524. Here is our silver wire in a 5-liter beaker. I'm going to start out by adding about 800 milliliters of 68 to 70% nitric acid to this beaker. That way we can keep track of how much nitric acid it takes to complete this process. Now I'm going to add about 1 liter of distilled water. I'll fill it up to the 1 liter mark on this beaker. That's a little over 1 liter. Now I'll add some of the nitric acid to our reaction beaker here. I add about 300 milliliters, I guess. Give it a quick stir, and we're going to set it up on the heat back here. I'm adding a little bit more of the nitric acid. Don't want to get too overly zealous with this. That was 800, now it's at 300, so there's 500 milliliters of nitric acid on our reaction beaker. Our solution is hot. Most of that first nitric charge has been used up now. So what we're going to do is add some more nitric acid. I got to do this carefully because this solution is hot and we could get a boil over very easily by adding too much nitric acid all at once. So we're going to add this in real slow. This reaction would be an ideal candidate for setting up an overhead drip with an addition funnel. And I think that's what I'm going to do once I get all of this first charge of 800 milliliters of nitric added to this reaction. Here we go. Here's the last little bit of nitric from the 800 milliliters. I'm adding that in right now. And then we'll let this react. And I think I'm going to set up my drip with an addition funnel. Got the funnel set up. I want to make sure that the stopcock is off right here. And now what I'm going to do is fill the funnel full of nitric acid. I'm going to be using about 500 milliliters of nitric acid here. And what we'll do now is pull the funnel out, and I'm going to put a lid on this so we don't go spilling any acid on us. Alright, here goes nothing. See if I can get the lid off of there now. Got it off. And now what we'll do is we'll get set up to start flowing the acid into the beaker. There it goes. Just drip it in because we got a hot mixture there. But you can see it's going to drip in real slow and add it at a constant rate so that we don't have to sit here and keep dumping it in, waiting for it to die, dumping it in, waiting for it to die, and we just let this go in autopilot. We've got just about that entire 500 milliliter charge of nitric down into the beaker now. And what I want to do is I want to go in here with a glass rod. Let's see how we're going to do this. I need to get this thing off of here. It's hot. Just want to reach down in here and see what we got left. And you can see we got a little bit of wire down in there still. Little bitty pieces. That's looking pretty good. I think we're going to be okay with the amount of nitric acid that we're adding. We're about 2 hours into this, and it looks like I'm right at the very end. All the wire has dissolved now. You can see some pieces floating on the surface there. And so I'm going to let the rest of this nitric flow in. It's not very much. In fact, all of it's out of there. So we calculated just right and got just the right amount of nitric in there to get all this wire to go into solution. Now we'll wait for those pieces to dissolve and then go from here. Alrighty, that took about 2.5 hours to get all that material to go into solution. Let me get this down off the heat now. And we'll let this cool off and go from there.